video games, in a lot of ways, have taken the place of movies for people's childhoods. Because now with video games, how good they are, you play along with it and you like live out a movie, but you actually feel like you participated in it.
Especially when there's multiple decisions that you can make, and that affects the outcome of the storyline.
Specifically an open world, where you just go and do it. And when we became friends, it was crazy to me because I knew you, A, from Opie and Anthony. I knew you, secondly, from Rockstar Games, because when you would talk about Rockstar Games on Opie and Anthony. But what I remember is you were the reason that Jim Norton and Bill Burr and all these comics were in Grand Theft Auto when you would listen to the radio station. Bill Burr was the biker.
Bill Burr was a biker.
Yeah, he was the biker in Grand Theft Auto 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, and which, as a guy who got famous from a Russian joke, I loved. It's just doing my Russian accent playing that game the whole time. But it was like insane to me as someone that was like a comedy fan, but like at that time comedy wasn't cool. So like knowing Bill Burr and knowing Jim Norton and all that stuff was like kind of niche. You're like, yeah, I'm into Opie and Anthony and I'm into this or whatever. But then you'd hear him in Grand Theft Auto and you're like, it kind of meant like, oh, someone else is a fan of this guy and put him in a thing that I'm a fan. It was worlds colliding. It's like when a character from a sitcom shows up in another sitcom and you go, what the fuck? What the fuck? Like Perfect Strangers and Family Matters.
Yeah, I'd go on Opie and Anthony at least once a month, and all the comedians that were part of that show I ended up putting in the games.
Yeah.
And my favorite was Patrice.
Yeah.
So, we had studio booked. I had other union talent booked.
Yeah.
Which means I got to pay him regardless. Patrice calls me from downstairs and says his truck is too big and the parking garage won't take it. Can we do this tomorrow?
That's so funny.
I was like, bro.
Yeah, you're like, this is a major operation, Patrice. I mean, he's treating it like a podcast now. He goes, no, I can't film, man. My truck's too big. What was the role for? Do you remember? Was it Grand Theft Auto 4?
Okay, the networks are down, the equipment is ready, and we've crippled their supplies. Mrs. Rackman has written our check and given us the green light. We're good to finally move on that submarine and stop this threat once and for all. When you're ready, get your crew together and head back to planning.
It was GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas,
Yeah.
Liberty City Stories, PSP, Vice City Stories, PSP, Chinatown Wars, which was on Nintendo.
Yeah.
On the 3DS, and then Grand Theft Auto 4, The Lost and Damned, Ballad of Gay Tony, and GTA 5.
Yeah. And Red Dead Revolver, Red Dead Redemption, and Red Dead Redemption 2.
Right, and then there was Bully in there, and Midnight Club, and...
I mean, dude, Warriors.
The Warriors was so good.
I have it. I have it on my, by the way, this is you're the reason I have a Steam Deck.
I brought mine with me.
Dude, I have my Steam Deck.
I thought of you. I read this article in the Wall Street Journal on the train here.
Yeah.
That sales of the Switch dropped 47%.
Well, Steam Deck.
It's brilliant.
It's unbelievable. Also, and I'm not advocating this, but I had mine jailbroken by my friend Joe. So now I have PS2 games, but I immediately asked for Warriors. I was like, no, I want to play Warriors because it's so fun. You go back and you play it, and you're like, it's still, honestly, one of my favorite games. I'm in a real Rockstar kick. I'm playing Max Payne 3.
Dude, a lot of people...
What you need, boss? Some wheels? I can bring them around.
It is Max Payne 3, and I saw it on a subreddit for Steam Deck, where they were like, what's your favorite level to play on a Steam Deck? And someone was like, airport scene in Max Payne 3.
Yes.
And I was like, I haven't played that. I played it on my PS4, but not on handheld. So me and Sagalo both downloaded it when we were doing the Addison Improv.
It's on the way.
Both of us were like waiting for the shows to finish. I was up till like 4 in the morning one night playing it. And Sagalo was like, I'm going to stay up too. And the next day we got breakfast, and he was like, how late were you up? I was like, 4. I played till like chapter 5. He was like, dude, I didn't even get to chapter 2. I was like, I was in it. I was Steam Deck. So you called me. I remember I was on the road in Buffalo when we were talking. And I was like, yeah, I got my Switch. And you were like, nah, I got a Steam Deck. And for people that play video games at a certain level, there's a jump that's scary. Where you're like, that's too much. I don't know how to do that. But you were like, no. Trust me. This is what you want to do. And that's what I got. Katie got me one for Christmas. It's the greatest.
It's life-changing.
If you play video games, the Steam Deck will change your life.
I don't even turn my console on. I take that thing everywhere I go.
I mean, and also you get to play games that maybe if you're like, I'm a PlayStation guy, that were exclusive to Xbox, like Mad Max. I played Mad Max, and I was like, oh, open world, just like GTA, and in the story of Mad Max. It was unbelievable.
I like that there's so many indie developers making killer games, and I am not... My days of PC gaming, where I'm sitting in my office chair, you know, with the mouse and the keyboard and the carpal tunnel, those are long gone. And I'm not gonna. If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna have a super beefy machine. I'm just not interested in that. But to be able to play all the games that are on Steam. By the way, this is not. The show is not endorsed in any way.
Yeah, Steam has no idea we're even talking about
right.
this. They're kind of like, get off our nuts. God, you guys are jocking us. But I remember, I mean, the hours I've spent playing Grand Theft Auto, all the radio stations, it's so funny to know, like, oh yeah, Laszlo was, like, in charge of picking all the crazy radio stations and all the DJs and shit. And I used to love circling through and hearing comics. Because to me, that was more important than, like, a comic showing up in a movie or something. Because it was something I'm going to spend time with, more than a movie.
Yeah, after GTA 3, we knew that we were onto something because people were just driving around the game, listening to the radio, and not doing missions.
And killing hookers and then getting money for it.
And so they would spend, you know, like 2 hours driving around listening to the radio, and they're like, oh yeah, maybe I should go do a mission.
Let me go to that yellow dot.
It was also a bit, if you remember, it was a bit more punishing back then. Games changed. They used to be really punishing, so you could complete a mission and be driving back to your safe house to save and get killed and have to do that mission again.
Katie and I were talking about this because on the Steam Deck, now that it's jailbroken, I have all these Sega and Nintendo and SNES, specifically N64 games. So I'm playing through a bunch of games that I used to play, and I'm like, these are so much harder, and they don't save. So when you fuck up, you gotta go all the way back. Now with the PS5, you finish and they go, do you want to go right to where you died? And then you just pick it back up. But like old school video games are like, no, fuck that, bud. You're going back to the beginning.
They also put some clever tricks in games now where if you fail the mission several times, they'll start to change the mechanics where like the bad guys don't aim so good. You know? Like, oh look, I finally beat him.
You know what's so funny is that's what makes me spaz out, is when they like will tell you, I was playing Ghost of Tsushima, and I was dying on one level, and I was playing on hard, and they go, at any time you can adjust the difficulty level, and it's like, fuck you.
Dude, I get so angry when that pops up.
Fuck you, dude. Don't fucking placate me. I'll play this at the hardest level. But, I mean, GTA 3, you were at Rockstar for GTA 3. And that was, I remember, I mean, it was 2001, 2002.
2001.
But 2001, it really took off. I mean, word of mouth. I was in college, and I remember coming home for Thanksgiving, and people being like, did you play Grand Theft Auto 3 yet? And I was like, that's that game, because Grand Theft Auto 1, you're just in a car.
Right. Well, it used to be top-down.
Yeah. So you just drive a car around from the top, so it was weird. And I remember being like, that doesn't interest me. And they're like, oh, no. That's not what the game is. And I remember being at the University of Colorado, and my friends, I was visiting. I was in my friend's dorm room, and his roommate was showing me Grand Theft Auto 3, and I was like, this is the greatest game of all time.
The craziest thing was, I worked on the game, you know, doing all the radio and stuff, and directed a bunch of the NPCs, which they didn't have that much dialogue back then. But I never actually saw the game.
Really?
And then I saw it sort of in the distance in the office.
Would you weren't curious? You wouldn't go over there and be like, hey, can you show me a couple?
We had a limited number of weeks to make all that radio. And so it was basically like I would come into the office, Dan Hauser and I would have a meeting. We would go to his apartment and eat anchovy and onion pizza and crush Diet Cokes and packs of cigarettes and write that stuff. And then I was furiously recording all of that and directing it and editing it. And so the day the game came out, Terry Donovan, who was one of the founders, drives by my house, and the only reason I had a PlayStation 2 was because Rockstar gave me one.
Really?
There was a while there where getting a PlayStation 2 was really hard.
Dude, you're talking to a guy that got high, drove to Boulder from Aurora. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew that there was I called a GameStop in Boulder that said, we have a PS2. And I said, can you hold it for me? It was like almost impossible. And this was no GPS. That was the last time I used a map. That was the last time I actively remember being like, okay, you drive up to Boulder, and you take this street, and then you go. It was like, getting that PS2 was a treasure. It was a treasure hunt.
Yeah, and so he dropped by, and I put the game in, and, you know, it opens up, and there's that, like, sort of accident on the bridge. You get in that car, and the first thing you hear is head radio.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo.
Yeah.
And then I'm driving, I'm like, yeah, I can go anywhere I want.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah, dude, that was the beginning of what we know as video games now. But that moment didn't happen. That open world, I can decide what I want to go do. I could also bring a 3-star police presence and not be able to shake it.
So Dan Houser and I, because he left Rockstar Games, then I left a bit later, and one of the things, and we started a new company, and one of the things we love doing is burying stuff in the games for people to just discover and find. So in GTA 4, there were internet cafes. I don't know if you remember that. You could drive to an internet cafe, and you go in and you sit down, and we wrote an internet, which is not a small process to write an internet. So we had all these websites and different spoofs of social media and stuff, and you could just get lost in it like you can the real internet. And there was this, in a previous game, we'd come up with this fake brand, called Little Lacy Surprise, and it was a spoof of Underoos.
Yeah.
So when we were doing Vice City, I watched a ton of TV commercials from the 80s.
Look, because it all takes place, for those of you who aren't up to date and you lived under a fucking rock, Grand Theft Auto Vice City was basically a parody of Miami Vice, Scarface, the 80s, the Miami 80s nostalgia, which, let me tell you right now, I remember how excited I was to go to GameStop to get that. I remember the commercial you guys played with And I Ran from Flock of Seagulls.
Right.
And that shit got me so fucking hyped that I remember being like, I got a blunt of swag. I got my fucking Vice City. I'm playing for like 12 hours.
So there was a commercial in there that we did was a spoof of Underoos, because I watched these TV commercials, these Underoos commercials, which, you know, they put like superheroes on little boys and girls.
Yeah, I had them, dude.
Watch the commercials. Go on YouTube. They are pedo central.
Really?
It's like, oh, look at the little girls in their underwear jumping up and down on the bed.
Dude.
And so
pedophiles were eating good in the 80s.
So
they're like, this is just on basic
I know
cable.
they're so upset now. Like the obesity epidemic is really screwing up my vibe with the kids.
Abs? Well, I wanted kids that were doing flips.
Kids were ripped.
Yeah, these fat kids can't even do flips jumping on their beds anymore.
So we had a radio commercial in that, and then in GTA 4, when you're surfing the internet in there, it said, there was a link that said, click here to see more of the Little Lacy Surprise, a children's beauty pageant, right?
Yeah.
So you click on it, and instantly you get a 5-star wanted level, and the thing comes up and says, you know, the FBI has tracked your location. So you jump up from the seat in the internet cafe, and cops are swarming the place, and we love putting stuff like that in there.
What I love about you telling us this right now is someone's watching this podcast that might have done that and tried to tell a friend, but then didn't know how they got there. But they go like,
I want to say I really wanted to check out.
Yeah, Little Lacy Underoos Surprise, but then I got fucking 5 stars. Oh shit! You might have stopped someone from being a pedophile because of GTA. Or they're like, dude, that's 5 stars. I don't do that shit.
Well, and you're boxed in. You're in an interior location, so
that's so crazy. Well, if you have the unlimited ammo and gun thing, you just pop that code in, and then you make those cops pay for coming to get you. That's what I would do. I'd get so frustrated that I had it written down in a notebook, you know, like the unlimited ammo, unlimited guns. And if I was failing a mission, I'd be like, fuck this. And I'd just pop it in and just have one of those, what's the gun that you hold like that?
Oh, right.
Jesse Ventura from Predator.
Right.
I'd just be like, just fucking, just mowing everyone down. Dude, Vice City and all that, I mean, I remember how excited I was living in New York. I'd finally moved to New York when Grand Theft Auto 4 came out. And now it's a common thing that I do in video games that are open world, where I want to explore. Spider-Man 2 came out. I wanted to see if we could find this building, like, because we're kind of close to the Flatiron. And so I told Katie, I was like, right when we got Spider-Man 2, I was like, we're trying to find our building. And it's like, and Grand Theft Auto 4 was the first time I did that. You guys had the Astoria Beer Gardens. You guys had a pretty accurate New York City. And if you drive into the Queens part of it, which is it's called like Kings or something, there's a beer garden that's based on the Astoria Beer Garden. And I went down the street and I showed Vecchione, who's an old, you know, he's always had old man brain. So he's like, what is this, video games? But I'm like, dude, this is our apartment. It's under the train. And he was like, that's pretty cool.
So for GTA 4, I went to Miami to do press.
Yeah.
Right? So I went to go do press on these radio stations, and I'd never been to Miami, but I worked on Vice City,
yeah.
right? So me and this guy that worked at Rockstar, Sean, are driving, and I go, this is starting to feel really familiar. And I go, I bet you if we go around this corner, there's a strip club. Went around the corner, strip club. I was like, yo, I know how to get around town.
That's so funny. They're like, have you ever been to Miami? You go, I made my city. I'm good. I don't need the locals' help.
I have to say, so during the pandemic, or when was the pandemic? What's 4 years ago? I know, but I know that.
Yeah.
I experienced it. But dude, I was just doing press in the UK, and I said, did you guys have the pandemic over there? It was pretty crazy. And they're like, oh yeah, we had it. I was like, bro, it's a joke.
Yeah.
But so I went out to LA so we could start this new company.
You calling for some wheels? I'm Johnny on the spot. I'll hook you up.
Actually being on the ground there, I'm like, man, there's a lot that we could have done. But like, first off, we didn't have enough. In GTA 5, we didn't have enough homeless NPCs.
Yeah, you guys really slacked on the homeless in San Andreas. There were not enough. San Andreas also was the first game where your character could eat and exercise.
Or not,
and you could get super fat or incredibly jacked. And then you just be a jacked gang member riding a little bike around.
with the arms out here.
Just being like, and I love that, you know, in meme lore, the, oh shit, here we go again, is one of my favorite things. I bought the package when it came out to replay them on my Switch, and I was like, these are still fun as shit. You also forget that it's very hard to drive in Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
Because you just like swerve all of a sudden, but it's so much
I'll bring
fun.
it to you.
Red Dead
I'll get back to
was
work.
the thing where I was like, I love Grand Theft Auto, but I think Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2 might be my two favorite video games of all time. Up there with Ghost of Tsushima. There's a couple of games that are up there, but Red Dead Redemption 2 was like a masterpiece. And I remember you making that, and you were like, that was a pain in the dick to make.
Well, yeah, it's when you have a virtual New York City or a virtual LA,
Yeah.
it's easy to fill it full of content because it's so dense.
Sure.
But if you have a game where you can literally get on a horse and ride into the distance, you've got to figure out clever ways of entertaining people and having things happen that don't feel forced.
Yeah.
And so that's when we put in tons of what we call random events.
Dude, I replayed it recently. I started getting into the serial killer. I never got into that because I was under a bridge one time and I was like, what the fuck is that? And I looked up and it's a torso, and then you see the clues and you're like, oh, there's a serial killer in this game. And I beat the game, but I never found that before.
So we wrote tons of little things like that you would discover, and
kind of like your pedo bust.
Yeah, did you ever find the shoes on the edge of the cliff where the guy killed himself?
No.
So I had a huge list of stuff that I needed to write, And I would go up to Massachusetts and hide in the woods and turn off the internet. And, well, there was no internet up there at that time. And write this stuff. And so you find these boots at a cliff, and there's a suicide note, right? So I think I was barely able to get internet through my phone or something. And I looked up famous suicide notes.
Sure.
Read through a bunch of them because I had to... never written a suicide note, you know what I mean?
It would have been crazy if you were like, no, I got one. I'll just use mine.
I so got this. Listen, I went through a goth phase and had a lot of Smiths. Dude, I saw... It is hot as balls here in Manhattan, and I saw a proper goth, and I'm like, dude,
Let me tell you right
that's
now.
dedication.
The Venn diagram of people wondering where goths and thugs cross over, like street dudes, it's the summer and what they wear. Because I'll see goths in like long black, all black, and it's like heated. It's like 96 today. And also I'll see black dudes in hoodies. And I'm like, how? How are you doing this? Are you cutting weight for a wrestling?
It's nuts.
It's insane.
I went through a goth phase. I grew up in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I went through a goth phase, and
That's a tough place to go through a goth phase.
I was just there 4 days ago.
Yeah.
105 degrees at 8 o'clock at night
No.
with 100% humidity.
Life is pain.
It's bad. And so at some point I go, maybe not wearing all black
And chains and like
chains
mesh.
and leather and mesh and Smiths and Pure. And
That's a winter look.
so,
Get sad. Get that seasonal depression going.
yeah, I transitioned from that into a deadhead for a while.
That's the way to go, because then it's a lot less clothing, a lot
Right.
less deodorant,
Better drugs.
way better drugs. What are goth drugs? I've never thought about that.
Oh, I'll tell you what they are.
Let me
Because
know. I want to know.
you go to Walmart and get a can of Freon,
Nice. You do wickets with Freon?
and you put it in a trash bag, and you stab it with an ice pick, and you hold the trash bag, and then you and the girl down the street huff it, and your voice gets really deep, and then you make out.
And that's how you come up with your demon name, too. You go, my name is Azabel. You know what? I don't feel bad for you saying that, because you can't get Freon anymore.
No,
So,
you
good
can't.
luck.
Sorry, polar bears.
Yeah.
I went through a phase.
Is that what it's called? Polar bears? Polar bearing? You guys want a polar bear? You're like,
Right.
oh, Freon? No,
Right.
I'm good.
Every can we huff melts one more ice floe for those fat bastards.
Yeah, you're the reason those polar bears are falling into the water now often. Oh, sweet October, how I love you. October, I'm on the road. Specifically, October 10th through the 12th, I'll be at the Houston Improv doing 5 shows. I love that club, so if you're in the Houston area, come on out. And then the week after that, October 17th through the 19th, I'll be at Wise Guys in Salt Lake City. Best sound system in any comedy club I've ever been in. I love that room. So those are 2 great weekends. Go to dansoder.com to see my full tour schedule. But Houston and Salt Lake City, I'll see you in October. November 8th, New York Comedy Festival. I will be at Town Hall. 9:45 p.m. show, November 8th. Tickets are moving. We're getting there. I'd like to sell it out. Go to dansoder.com and get tickets for the New York Comedy Festival at Town Hall, November 8th, 9:45. I'll see you there. Oh, Tushy, dude. You know what? Sometimes they like tell you when you have a sponsor, they're like, here's what you need to talk about. Here's what you should talk about. Let me tell you what I'm going to tell you about with Tushy. How clean my butthole is. It's nuts, dude. Getting a Tushy, bidets used to be for French kings. That's SHOPMANDO.com.
You know, I love New York, and I still come here quite frequently. I was here for 25 years.
Yeah.
Being in LA, the place is lawless.
Yeah.
It is, between the street takeovers and stripping all the copper out of the street lights.
Shout out.
And
Go get those catalytic converters.
bro,
Go
there's
get it.
something. So there's this new meth. I don't know if you tried it.
No, but I actually, for real, have heard about it by listening to a couple podcasts with bands on it.
Really?
A couple bands were talking about how there's like super meth out
So this meth that, let's go back a few years. Do you remember when
there. Take it back.
Do you remember when people were making meth the old-fashioned way?
Yeah, and they're exploding little fucking.
They would get pseudoephedrine.
Yeah, I lived in Tucson, which it was.
Yeah.
Tucson was, and I don't know if it was the first city, but it was one of the first cities to make pseudoephedrine behind the counter because people were cooking it. Right. So if I just got over a head cold, the stuff that I'm taking so I don't sound like Lithribow is pseudoephedrine. It makes you, it stops you from being, it's cold medication.
Right, so they were using that, and they said, we got this, we're going to solve the meth problem, we'll just make it so that people that have a cold can't get that shit anymore.
I wrote my senior journalism thesis on pseudoephedrine, on the city level, the city of Tucson. I had to go to a bunch of, city council meetings and listen to them make pseudoephedrine. By the way, I was, high off my ass and probably half drunk.
Isn't it pseudoephedrine?
Pseudoephedrine, yeah. That's probably.
You wrote an entire thing about some shit you can't pronounce?
No.
Fantastic.
I also cheated to get my French credit. What am I doing with a degree?
Right.
It's for my mom.
So these brilliant Mexican chemists figured out a new formula for meth that also allows you to make it in bulk.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And and using more readily available chemicals. And the price per pound went from 10 grand a pound down to $1,000 a pound.
Everything you want. More, cheap, and stronger.
But the problem is that, people are like, why are there so many crazy people on the streets now? The old meth, people would go nuts over a longer period of time.
Sure.
Right? It would have to be years of doing the stuff. The new meth, these cops they were interviewing said that literally within weeks to just 2 or 3 months, people are completely cooked and out of their tree.
It's just making because of the chemicals that are in it, just absolutely nukes their brain.
But one of the things that's great,
cool. That's cool
great about LA is the fentanyl. Is the best with the quinoa and the
acai and little. Also, it's like sleepy time, cubby wubby sleepy time, and insane. It's crazy that they took meth and they were like, can we get it more like PCP? I just feel like they're not as indestructible as angel dust users.
This is weird. I was just thinking about PCP yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever said that before.
Yeah.
But you don't hear about PCP anymore.
No, meth PCP crawled so meth could jump through a window.
Right.
PCP was always the stories of the 6 cops shooting a guy, he didn't go down.
When you heard those stories growing up,
makes you want to try PCP.
Not me. I heard all the other drug stories. Like, oh, that sounds like a good time.
I'm a Marvel guy, so I was like, oh, dude, instant superpowers.
Have you ever seen someone on PCP?
Probably and not known it.
So, I was at a music festival, and up in Connecticut, and there was this naked guy is running through the festival, screaming his head off, with cops running after him. The cops tackle him, and whatever it is about that drug makes you want to fucking throw haymakers at cops. It's so weird.
Punch cop police. punch cop powder is what they should call PCP.
This guy's swinging to the cops, and they tase him, and he hits the ground and pops right back up, and they tase him again, and people start yelling, just stay down. Right?
I got one more in me. It's crazy to think that, to be a cop, the first cop that saw someone on PCP, he's like, this guy's acting nuts, I got it. And then he just gets back up, he's like, the fuck?
He was like in the superhero movies, and like, the weapon is not effective on him.
I can't, what do we do to him? He's like, ah! I mean, that's gotta be the scariest moment of a cop's life when you're dealing with someone on PCP for the first time. I mean, even these meth heads that are going fucking nuts. Because you're like, I don't know what they're gonna do, they're crazy. Like, you see people here on the street, and you're like,
I'm on the clock, what you want, some wheels?
Sanity in that person. Like, you just see him, and now you know it's because of that new meth.
Yeah. The other thing about LA, world-class shoplifting. It's the best.
I mean, I got family from San Francisco, so good luck competing with them. They shut down all of Union Square because people are just like, hey, we'll just run in and grab everything we can and no one will stop us.
You know, when we were growing up, if you went into a store...
It's coming at you.
Stealing, and got caught, a big beefy guy
Grab you.
threw you into a back room, maybe like roughed you up a little bit, and then the cops come.
Yeah.
And then you go to
Shit.
jail, and then you call your parents.
Yeah, what changed?
Something
They
changed.
passed a law, I think.
Well-
It was like something it's like a certain amount of money it's under a felony, so they don't really care.
Under $950.
Yeah, that's what it is.
But the other thing is, these big corporations, they've got security at the front door,
But
but
they
they
also
tell
have
them
insurance.
do not engage.
Yeah, because they don't want to pay for if one of those security guards gets stabbed or hurt. Then the cop goes, well, I was at work. But the security guard goes, I was at work. And then Walgreens is like, we're not paying for that.
But if you gave every one of those guys a billy club and a stun gun,
Let them go,
and
dude.
just let them go, it would shut that shit down immediately.
I saw a video, I'm not condoning this, but I'm saying it's satisfying to watch. There's a guy going through a bodega, and he's like taking the cigarettes, which I get. That's the first move I would. He's behind it, and he's like got a trash can, and he's like putting it, and this guy's like, don't do it. The guy's like, you ain't gonna do shit. And this guy, I think he's like either from Bangladesh or India, he pulls out a fucking billy club, and just, the dude goes for him, and he just beats the shit out of him. And the guy's like, I'll stop. And the guy's like, nah, and he just keeps wailing on him, and you're like, this is very satisfying to watch. Because the guy's like talking shit to him as he's stealing the cigarettes, and you just see the guy click and go, yeah, I own this store. It's like, bah, bah, bah.
I had this very New York versus LA moment when I go into this liquor store, and it's a pretty big liquor store, and I'm in a hurry, and I'm walking around a corner quickly and nearly run into this proper Mexican cholo guy with the bald head and the bandana across and the high, like, Who's Gone Wild socks.
And you're like, what's up, vato?
And so
He's like, yo, are you Lalo? Yo, you do this dirty in San Andreas, Holmes.
So-
you fucking make the cholos look like fucking pussy. You made us look like mariposa in
Right.
the fucking video game, man.
So, my gut reaction, and from hanging out with my friend Big Wayne here, was a proper Queens guy, construction dude. He would say buddy a lot.
Yeah,
Be like,
he's a Queens guy.
right,
So he says buddy.
right. So you say, hey, sorry, buddy, you know? So I nearly smack into him, and I go, hey, sorry, buddy. And he gets up in my face, and he goes, buddy? I ain't your buddy.
That's
He
terrifying.
goes, I'm a man.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro.
Yes, sir.
He goes, buddy's a little kid. You don't call me a little kid. And I was like, dude, I'm New York. We just,
Yeah, sorry, guy. Sorry, Pepito.
you know, and he kept going, I'm a man. I'm like, I'm not doubting your manhood. I just,
Well, he clearly is. He's going through something. He's like, damn, why did you have to snap like that? You know you're a man. You're talking about it in therapy. Yeah, dude, it is. What happened? Did he just get in your face?
no, I apologized, I groveled, and
Yeah.
like went on about his business. When I recognized his manhood, I mean, I could blow him, but
Yeah, you're a man. You're a big, strong man. That's how you get gay with him.
I just started
You go, oh, you're
feeling on his muscles.
You go, ooh, you are. You're a big, strong man. Big, strong man that can have his way with me. He goes, man, I don't like the way this turned. I'm fucking out of
This is a
here,
little
bro.
weird. I got feelings I don't understand.
Oh, man, you're making shit bubble up inside of me that makes me feel strange and shit. No, you're a big man. You're a big, fucking strong man. Well, I told this story.
Want to get some Modelo's?
I told this story on the bonfire, but I had a similar incident with a giant vato when I lived in Tucson. I used to come home from class in college, and Comedy Central would rerun Conan. Like, that's how you would watch all the Conans. Because I wouldn't stay up late or whatever, or I didn't have DVR. So I'd watch Conan reruns in the afternoon, and I got high, like resin high.
Ooh, resin high.
I was just smoking the bottom of a pipe, and then I was like just real red-eyed and giggly. And they did the sketch in the year 2000 with the things on there, and I ran out of milk, and I was like, oh shit, I was eating cereal, and I was like, I gotta get me some milk. I'm high as fuck, and I want another bowl of cereal. So I go to the Fry's where that congresswoman got shot.
Yep.
That was that Fry's parking lot. Not at the same time. That happened like a couple years later.
And
But
you went there because you like it because someone got shot in the parking
I
lot?
was like, I only buy milk where people almost died.
All right.
This was before she got shot, but I go to the Fry's and I grab I'm like, walking in, and I'm fucking resin high, and I'm like talking to myself, and I go, in the year 2000, like that, and I start laughing, and I just hear this dude go, the fuck you laughing at, white boy? Like that, and I look over, and it's just this giant in a long white tee, black Dickies. He's got the bandana, like headband kind of like that over his eyes, and he's holding just the littlest baby. He's holding just this tiny baby. He's like, what the fuck you laughing at, white boy? Like that, and I was like, oh, and I kept walking, and he hands his baby to his girl, and he starts following me around the store. He's like half an aisle behind me, and he keeps being like, what's funny? What's funny, bro? Like that, and I'm like, oh shit, and I'm high, I'm paranoid. I'm like, is this really happening? I don't know what's really happening. I get the milk, and I turn the corner, and he's still following me. So I cut this lady off in line, and he gets like behind her, like he still acknowledges the line, which is weird, that he didn't just like come around, but he's like, yo, you think that shit's funny? And he's like yelling at me while I'm buying the milk, and I'm like, no, I'm fine. And it was like $3 for the milk, and I was like, just keep change. And I took the gallon, and I fucking bolted. And I ran out of the parking lot, like threw the milk in my car and fucking peeled out. And I was like, did that just happen? But it was so scary, all because of a Conan bit.
We wrote a...
Just don't disrespect Vatos.
We wrote a lot of spoof jingles and things that we put in the games. And I remember we wrote a country western one that the lyrics went, last night I think I shit the bed, got so drunk I gave a dude head.
Yeah.
And so I was working in the studio recording that, and I was walking down the street of Manhattan, singing it aloud because I had a few drinks.
Yeah.
Singing it aloud like to myself, and this guy goes, "Excuse me." I was like, "Oh, terribly sorry."
Sorry, sir. It's a country ditty I'm working on. Oh, how sweet it feels to say this. Summer's over, guys. Sorry.
What you need, boss? Some wheels? I can bring them round.
And when that weather gets sweet, essentially, this fall, make the most of every moment with Chubby's. But that it must bleed into your regular life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It gets stuck in your head.
Well, like the research that you had to do for like Vice City, but you live in New York, so Grand Theft Auto 4. Are you like doing research, or are you kind of like, I can still wing this?
Full research team, 6 people that, because the art team needs to know what do the manhole covers look like, what are the different bodega art, what areas are people of speaking Russian, or and there's other video games that I've played where they'll have NPCs that they're not really speaking that foreign language. They're speaking sort of a weird gibberish.
Yeah.
And my policy was always, why not go the extra mile and just write and have translated and record some people in that language?
Well, because if you do speak Russian and you see that, you feel like, oh fuck, they put the time into this. They made this thing.
It's on the way. Okay, I got stuff to do.
Yeah, and then one of the things that always bugged me in video games was especially in some shooters like back in the day, you're like, it's a level and you're in Russia or Chechnya or wherever, and you're storming a place and shooting, and the guys are yelling to each other, I'm going to reload. It's like, why are you speaking?
Yeah. Why would you say that?
In English.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you yell to each other in your native language?
I don't really. The other guy's like, I don't speak the English as well.
I think I have been shotted.
They shot me in the arm. He goes, I will pursue for you. Just speaking Russian back, being like, we can speak in Russian. This is fine.
Do you go back to Arizona that often?
No.
The place is a mess.
Yeah.
The place is a mess.
Well, I tried to go back. I usually work Phoenix, and I've tried to go back to Tucson to do like a one-nighter at Laughs Comedy Club where I started, but the guy who books it wouldn't email my agent back, which is hilarious. You're like, I just want to do like a Wednesday there. Like I don't want a whole weekend. I just wanted to go do a show at the club I started at. But they like wouldn't get back to my agent, which you're like, oh, all right, that's kind of weird. That feels personal.
Yeah, Yeah, I was reading these, like, the homeless epidemic in Arizona. For some reason, now listen, I understand why people come to California.
Sure,
to
San
be
Diego
homeless.
specifically.
It's fantastic.
If you're a homeless guy, go to San Diego.
But, like in Southern Oregon, Medford, Oregon, I drive through there at least twice a year. The place is completely methed out. I'm like, why are you? If you're going to sleep outside, go someplace that doesn't rain.
Yeah, rain and cold when you're sleeping outside. It's the same way I feel about New York. New York homeless, you get the heat in the summer, and then you're getting the snow in the winter. It's like you're not. Go to Florida. Go to San Diego. Go to somewhere where there's like nice climate.
When I moved out of Oklahoma, my parents could not understand why I wanted to leave.
Sure.
And I was like, the entertainment industry isn't really...
It's not thriving
here. Thriving here. If I wanted to castrate bulls, could do that all day long.
Well, then you landed in a gold mine.
Right. But, so I was there I hadn't gone back to Oklahoma since 2018.
Okay.
So I went to go see my folks, and my mom moves into one of these retirement villages.
Yeah.
And it's a really bizarre, and they're not like the ones in Florida where there's at least some swinging going on, because it's more of a Christian retirement.
Oh yeah, they're all doing Bible. They're not trading partners.
Right.
They're trading verses.
And she's like, I want you to meet all my friends, and they've all got this sort of like, we love it here. We all came here to die because
that's what they did though.
Yeah, because they've got their own little apartment. It's like, and then pretty soon I'm gonna get so sick that I'm gonna move to the building over there. Is there's memory care, and you won't know that you're there. And then there's sort of the hospicey thing when you're shitting your drawers.
Yes. When you have renal failure.
But she wanted me to meet all our friends, people that still use the word like, I'm going to go to the commode. I'm like, we call it a toilet now. It's like,
commode?
You want anything out of the ice box? I'm like, we don't actually buy it. A man doesn't come on a wagon anymore and give you a block of ice to put in the ice box.
Shit if you saw a Twin Sub-Z.
Right.
You have no idea. That thing is...
So she wants me to, meet all of her friends, and they're all named, they all have, hurricane names, like
Doris,
Ida,
Agatha,
Sandy, Irene.
Yeah, that's so funny, hurricane names.
There's something about that generation. They have the least sexiest names, like Gertrude, Beatrice.
Yeah, because they had to make the names unfuckable because everyone was so horny. Everyone was so horny, and there wasn't porn, and there wasn't an outlet. So they're like, I just know dicks are going to be getting thrown at her. Let's call her Dorothy. Dorothy seems pretty unfuckable.
Why are hurricane names feel so trapped in time?
Well, I think it's like, I don't know whoever picks it. Whoever picks it must have like a old person fetish.
Yeah.
Where they're like, well, the new one coming through, what's it called? It's like the hurricane that's hitting now.
It's Debbie.
Debbie, that's what it is.
Nobody wants to fuck a Debbie.
Yeah, well, we're watching it, and Katie goes, call her by her full name, Deborah. She goes, Debbie, we're not friends with this hurricane.
If it was a hot, sassy name
God.
that of course it comes through and flattens your
ear. Oh, Ashland came and fucked our shit up. And we go, all right, hey, hurricane. Yeah, it's like Hurricane Molly. It's all sexy.
Molly.
Hey, Natasha came through and burnt down your whole house. Well, back to Red Dead Redemption 2, the suicide letter. Whose suicide letter did you base it off of?
Well, I read several. I couldn't base it off of Kurt Cobain's. Have you ever read his suicide note?
No.
He is a brilliant lyricist. I gotta say, Suicide Note sucked.
Really?
Suicide Note sucked.
Really? I could argue.
I wanted a Suicide Note that I could strum and it's like da 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 da. Like, I get it.
You know why? If it would have been good, he might have not killed himself. If he's like, I want to kill myself, and he goes, it's actually a pretty good song.
It's pretty good.
I don't think I can do. You know what?
Let's make this the first song on our new album.
Takes a shotgun from under his chin. He goes, it's actually a pretty good song. I think I'm going to use that. Hunter S. Thompson's is good.
Yeah,
he was well written.
He was a brilliant writer.
This is called Football Season is Over, which is great. My favorite title of a suicide note ever.
When he started...
Because he said he got depressed after the Super Bowl. He's like, after the Super Bowl, I know there's not football for 8 more months, so I want to kill myself.
It could also be the copious amounts of drugs and alcohol that you're shoving in your system as an old man. Like, you're supposed to be fishing.
Yeah, but he said in his letter, he's like, I lived too long. He's like, I should have died somewhere around 40. Or in the documentary, they said that he planned on dying at 30. And then when he went past that, he was kind of just like, fuck it. I didn't think I was going to live this long, so I'll just do all the drugs I can.
Well, when he did the planning, get shot out of a cannon.
Yeah, he knew what he wanted to do. He also killed himself with his family in the room. Or in the house.
Wow.
His son and grandson and his son's wife were all in the house when he did it. He just, finished it. He was at his typewriter. He pulled out his favorite gun and fucking did it. And they said it sounded like a book dropping on the floor.
Somebody's got to clean up that mess.
That's what's fucked up.
Just, go in the garage, start the car.
That's the clean.
Roll down, it's clean.
I don't even say, I'll half zip the body bag. I'll, get in the body bag and, zip up and be like, all right, well, when you guys find it, all you got to do is that. It's like when you send, when you buy something online and they send you the return label already, where you're like, oh, I just got to, if I want to return it, I just send it back. That's what, do that with suicide. Make it easy for them.
Before the web, you had to really hunt down gross shit like that.
Oh, you had to get
places
of death. Yeah, I was just banned from TV.
I spent a lot of time on my weekends as a kid at the police station because my old man was a cop.
Okay.
Right? And so he was in charge of the computers and stuff because before that he was an undercover drug narc, and that got a little heavy. And so I would wander around the police station, and I would go into the homicide office, and they had all these Polaroids of suicides and homicides.
How old are you?
7, 8.
That is crazy to see at that age. That is crazy to see at that age. It's also, that's, I would say, the height of curiosity.
Yeah.
When a child is around 8 years old.
It was, and for crime scenes, it's not like they just take one Polaroid and they're like, it's lots of close-ups.
Yeah, they need to know where the bullet, because it's also back then, before the internet, they need to know when the bullet went in, when the bullet went out. They didn't, they couldn't do the stuff to plug it all in a computer and be like, oh, it's all the data.
My favorite thing, they have a stuffed buzzer in the homicide office with a sign that says, when your day ends, our day begins.
Oh, that's fun. It's fun that they have the office humor with murder cops, where they just go
you have to, or you'll
bless this mess, and it's a guy's head all over the sidewalk, and they're we got him.
So my dad was on the SWAT team, and I would go to trainings with him, right? So I would play a hostage.
Sure.
And so I would these cops who were dressed in civilian clothes would snatch me from someone, and then we would be holed up in this abandoned house. I don't know how they found this abandoned house in the woods, and somebody's like, yeah, use my place.
Yeah, dude.
Because if you want to throw off some flashbangs, whatever you need to do.
Yeah, dude. Fire off some fucking dummy rounds.
And so we're in this house holed up, and the other members of the SWAT team are outside and are trying to figure out
how to get you out.
How to get me out. And I'm sitting there, and a guy that, you mentioned Jesse Ventura from Predator, a guy that looked exactly like that. Beefed, jacked, he's got 8,000 rounds of shit on him, Bowie knives and stuff. He pulls out, now I'm 8 or 9 years old at this point. I was 10. He pulls out a pack of Red Man chewing tobacco.
Hell yeah.
And he's like, you want a plug? And so I was like, oh, cool, it'll make me... That was the definition of manhood.
You're through to your garage. You need me to bring you a ride?
That ring on your back pocket, which meant
dip.
Yeah, that means that you dip. That it made you cool.
Yeah,
right?
That's why I don't like all this, all these new
the Zen
and the snusses and stuff. You're like, no, that's half stepping, dude. Get some chaw. Get a cheek of chaw going.
Did you ever go through a phase?
I dipped.
Yeah.
I dipped when I played football in high school because I smoked cigarettes, and then when it was football season, I was like, well, I gotta run. So I dipped.
Copenhagen or Skoal?
I would do Kodiak.
I went to a Kodiak.
Or Skoal, whatever was around.
Can you still the can? Yeah.
Well, here's my favorite story. Shout out to Cami Sweet. I was at her house my junior year around football season. She had a very white living room, and I was trying to impress people.
I know where
I'll get there as soon as I can. I'll get back to it then.
Went everywhere. And I was so mortified because she was a senior, I was a junior, and you're like, you don't do that.
I thought you were going to say that you spilled the spit cup on the white carpet.
Worse. The chew went everywhere, and I wanted to clean it up fast, so I grabbed a vacuum cleaner. Well, it's wet. It's wet on carpet, so you put a vacuum cleaner on it and it starts burning it, and it just starts going, and everyone was like, what the fuck are you doing? And I was like panicking. I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. Yeah, but I dipped when I couldn't smoke, because I love smoking. But
and there was times where at a party, I accidentally drank my own spit, but you keep going. Like, nothing in you goes, this habit's revolting.
Yeah. You know what it was? Is what's interesting is a lot of people don't know there's a difference between dip and chaw and, like, chew. Like, dip, you put it in your lip, you pack it down. Nate used to dip all the time. Nate and Shane were my two friends that dipped all the time. And you'd always see them just having, like, a Mountain Dew 20-ounce, being like, yeah, that's fucking crazy. And they'd be like, yeah, and then they'd fish it out and put it in. So now when, like, Shane uses Zins, I'm like, yeah, well, he used to chew. So I, like, give him credit for that. But, dude, I remember, like, chaw, like Red Man.
Yeah,
that's a plug. That shit's like, you put that in your cheek and you go like, and then it goes.
Dude, it is 8
like
billion milligrams of nicotine in about 10 seconds.
A lot of people will wrap it in gum. So it, like,
gum.
Baseball players do that. Or
you calling for some wheels? I'm Johnny on the spot. I'll hook you up.
So it, like, it's like easier to chew. It's like more chewable, but you get like the juice.
I don't know. That guy gave me some, and the world turned sideways.
Fuck yeah, it did. Fuck yeah, it did. Red Man, old school Red Man chew like that. Oh fuck.
I'll bring it by.
I was in a convenience store the other day.
I'll get back to
when
work.
I was in Oklahoma, because there's about 8,000 kinds of chewing tobacco.
Oh yeah,
because everybody's still
everyone dips
going at it. There was a guy my first year of college in Missouri he was clearly off the farm and did not want to be getting a college education.
Sure.
My first semester, he would come into class every day and open up a can of Copenhagen, and he would take half the can and put it in there, and then the entire class goes by, doesn't spit.
That's it.
Doesn't spit once. And so after a couple of weeks, I said, hey, I sit behind you a lot, and used to like a little pinch of, every now and then. I was like, what do you do with the juice? He's like, I just swallow it.
Yeah.
And I go, that can't be good.
It's gotta be horrible for you. It's gotta be.
Can you imagine what Copenhagen shits are like? Dude, it can't be good.
I have a little bit of a cold, so I felt this at the running of my nose. Oh yeah, hold on, we'll get back to that, because speaking about guys that were gutting tobacco, when I lived in Alaska and I worked at that fish cannery, our dock boss, Lou, Copenhagen, would take it out in the morning while he was giving us our, like, chores for the day on the dock, and he'd put it in and he would gut it, but he wouldn't even take it out at lunch. In fact, he'd put more in and then he'd eat a meal. One time I was in the office talking to Lou about something, and when he would talk, you'd see it. It would just be like up here in his lip. He would take the candy hot tamales. He was eating hot tamales, and he would spill them in his hand, and he'd be like, well, I need you to go down there and make sure the Arapahoe's gassed, and toss in a handful of hot tamales, and be like, and I would see as he was eating. Dude, I wonder if I saw that picture on my phone of him.
You have a picture of his mouth?
You can see the chaw in his mouth from... Dude, it is... I'm telling you right now, homeboy is wild.
Did you ever have a moment in your drinking days where you had a dip in and you were smoking a cigarette simultaneously?
I love smoking. I didn't like dipping that much. I dipped because I wanted the nicotine. I loved smoking. So, like, my version of that would be going back to back. Do I have Lou?
That's the other thing that's the difference between New York and LA. Everybody here smokes.
Yeah.
Everybody in New York is in something about the misery of Manhattan. where you just want to stand outside and crush butts.
I mean, not a lot of people smoke anymore, but
still a lot more
than LA.
Than LA.
Well, now it's all LA's all. LA's like. I don't have a picture. I gotta find it. We'll find it and I'll send it to you. They're LA's all zins now.
Well, not just that, but everybody's high. Everybody is high, and when I tell you the number of times in 1 week that the light turns red and stoned people are surfing Instagram on their phone, I'm sorry, the light turns green.
Yeah.
And stoned people are surfing the internet and Instagram on their phone. They're like, oh, that's right, I'm in the car and a light.
Dude, I don't know. I want cigarettes to come back. I want cigarettes back. When did you quit smoking cigarettes?
I've had a weird relationship with nicotine. My first cigarette was in the walk-in cooler at the Buy for Less grocery store. It was a cool menthol.
Nice. Shut up.
Then I switched to
K-O-O-L.
Then I switched to Benson and Hedges.
Oh,
menthol.
Dude, B&H were so smooth.
Well, I worked at a pizza, Godfather's Pizza, and a lot of the staff were black, and so I would smoke Camel Lights, but I would bum menthols off of them, and I was like, these are awesome.
Yeah, these taste great. I never got full into menthol, but I never got upset when people had menthols. I had friends that'd be like, fuck a menthol. I'd be like, all right.
And also,
it was like his Newport.
Like my boss, this big fat dude, my boss at Godfather's Pizza, his name was Willie Pink, and he would crush Benson and Hedges menthol, and you know, there was the people that would smoke the regular length cigarettes, and then there was the hundreds, and then there was the 120s.
I didn't even know that 120s.
But he was so manly that he could smoke long cigarettes.
Still look cool.
And still look cool.
That's wild. That's wild to me that you can look. That's like someone smoking Virginia Slims and still being tough.
So and then in college, my stepdad, he'd served in Vietnam and Korea, and he went on. He was at Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma all the time, and he would pick up 10 cartons of Camel Lights, $5 a carton, on the base, and mail them to me. And so I was the guy in college for all 4 years that if you were partying at our house and you ran out of cigarettes, you knew that I had.
I would have been at your side the entire time.
It was nuts.
I mean, like, Laz, let me get another pack of cigarettes. You're like, Camel Lights?
Dude, our entire house was full of shit we bought with Camel Bucks.
Camel Bucks rule. Camel Bucks rule. Honestly, there's still a bunch of Joe Camel stuff that I want to find and get. Joe Camel was the fucking man. My dad worked at a liquor store, and they'd send, when in cartons, sometimes they'd send a free t-shirt, and like one of it, and he just opened it up and gave it to me, and it was my sleeping shirt. And I wore a Camel Light, Joe Camel Light shirt until it was see-through, because I would sleep in it every night. And my mom was like, we could see through this.
Everything we had was branded with Camel stuff.
I love it. My dad was a Marlboro guy, so when he died, it was like a Marlboro jacket, there was a Marlboro cooler, and you're like, all right, Gary, you were fucking spending them bucks. You weren't saving them. He was getting active with it.
It was such a great promotion, because you're like, if I smoke faster, I can get a Camel dartboard.
I might get a goddamn pool table. We have to start wrapping it up, but the suicide letter, so you just took an amalgamation of everyone.
Yeah, and then
so if you find those shoes, there's a letter there, and that you wrote that letter. If you're playing Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, it was fun working on that stuff, like making virtual worlds and filling them with content. You know, our new company, Absurd Ventures, Dan Hauser and I started it, and he and I made the radio in GTA, you know, in Red Dead Redemption 2, there was old-timey cartoons you could watch, and there was the newspaper and all these discoverables, and we love making media. So when we started the new company, we thought, well, let's make new IP. You know, we worked on legendary legacy IP for him for 22 years, me for 19. So we've been working on 3 different universes, 2 of which we've announced, the third we haven't, but you know, we're working on games, graphic novels, animated TV, live action. We just released an audio fiction series this summer that is
available now.
All the games that you and I have been talking about were set from 1899 to current day. We never did anything that was set in the future.
Sure.
So A Better Paradise is our universe set in the future, and it's about a video game company in the 2030s that's making an open world game, and they develop an AI agent that will that helps create the world, but also psychoanalyzes you and changes the gameplay based on you.
Yeah, kind of like we're talking about when you couldn't beat a level. And they're kind of like the bad guys start missing and stuff.
So,
but more to your personality
and manipulating you.
Oh, cool.
So
that's terrifying.
The video game company implodes for mysterious reasons that get revealed, and the people that work there that aren't dead are on the run in the 2040s.
Oh, that's fun.
And so we have 12 episodes, and it's monologues from the people that are on the run being pursued by the AI and other things that are after them, and then flashbacks to the 2030s
to what happened
to the game development.
I love that.
And when things started going off the rails, and we created this AI. The AI character also does monologues. His name is Nigel Dave, because the 2 engineers that hated each other that made him were called Nigel and Dave.
Yeah.
And so he just renamed himself Nigel Dave. But he goes on these long monologues trying to figure out what it means to be human.
Yeah.
But his perception of it is by watching the Internet of Things and reading social media.
Oh, that's crazy.
So,
which is what AI is actually doing right now.
Right. And so
that is nuts. That you guys are taking from real life and how AI, like ChatGPT and all this stuff, takes all the stuff from the internet and then regurgitates it.
But it's got that comedic tone.
Sure.
That we're known for.
Yeah.
And so the audio fiction, it's kind of meta. The audio fiction series is about a fictional video game team that's making this game, while we're also have a team that's making the game.
Oh, really?
So we have several things in production.
I love that. That gets me excited, knowing that. I like when you find out people do several different levels to their creations. It's kind of like with the Mad Max universe. Like, I played that game on Switch, but then I found out that his original intention was to make Fury Road, the video game, and an anime Furiosa all at the same time. And Warner Brothers was like, no, we're not going to do that. And Fury Road got pushed back as the schedules, so they made Mad Max, the video game, without Miller's sign-off. They just took his notes, and they went and developed the game. He was pissed about it. But it's crazy because I wish they would have let him do that, because then he tells the story in 3 different mediums, where you can watch the movie, play the game, then also watch the anime about where Furiosa's from.
Yeah, we have multiple stories planned for that universe as well as the other universe, but doing the audio fiction thing let us get a story out there and establish our characters.
Yeah. And can you download it like a podcast?
Yeah, so it's released like a podcast, so it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify.
And what's it called?
A Better Paradise.
A Better Paradise.
And
this is the introduction into that world.
Yeah.
That's fucking sick.
So,
any plans on when the game's gonna come out?
Oh, I'm not in charge of any of that.
Dude, that's such a headache. If everything you're talking about with Red Dead 2, you're like, I don't want to fucking. Good luck.
Well, and Red Dead 2, it's such a amazing. I think it's a masterpiece, but I'm biased.
It's unbelievable.
We worked on that for 7 years.
That's crazy.
It was a.
Is Bonnie McFarlane named after the comedian?
No, it's not. In fact, so Dan names the characters.
Okay.
There's a lot of characters that I name, but all the main characters he names. And I said to him, I was like, there's a comedian named Bonnie McFarlane.
Yeah.
And he'd never heard of her.
Yeah.
Despite her being world famous.
Yeah.
And we decided not to change it.
That's fun.
I mean, it isn't sort of an old. We're talking about old lady names.
Sorry, Bonnie. Sorry, Bonnie. I didn't say
That's
it.
an Old West name. It's
You're gonna have Rich Voss coming after you. I'm just saying. I didn't say it. That's all. I didn't say Bonnie is an old lady name.
It's an old. I meant Old West.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lady you'd
like. She got that old, okay. Bonnie. Yeah, that was. I think Red Dead 2 is the greatest video game ever made.
Wow, that's great. Thank you.
Because it's so immersive. I mean, I was so excited for it because it got pushed back. And I remember, I've told the story before, but when Shane and I used to be on the road together, we would do this. Shane was always like, "You're too nice. Like, what's your thing? Like, what's your fucked up thing?" And I was like, "I don't know. It'd be fun." And then we started joking around. What if my fucked up thing was I jerk off homeless guys? And I just go under a bridge and I jack them off, and we do. Shane and I would do this voice where we go, "Hold on, mister. Oh, you're about to make me pop. Oh, God, you got good hands. You're about to make me come in my britches." And we just do that. Just say Shane walks under an underpass and I'm fucking beating off a homeless guy. And then I was out of town. I think it might have been in Italy or something. And Shane calls me and he's like, "Have you played Red Dead?"
No, I thought you were going to say, Shane calls me and goes, "I just beat off a homeless guy under a bridge."
Yeah. He came so fast. But Shane called me and goes, "Have you played Red Dead Redemption 2 yet?" And I was like, "No, but I pre-ordered it. I'm gonna play it when I get home." He's like, "Dude, the main character is our jerk-off homeless guy voice." And I go, "No, it's not." And I put it on, and when Arthur Miller, the first time Arthur goes, "Well, I'll be Josiah," I was like, "Dude." He's like, "I gotta come over and watch." He came over to my house to watch me watch it for the first time because he was like, "It's our voice that we do." We go, "Well, hold on a second, mister. You're about to make me bust." Yeah.
But you growing up, you ran into those type of characters with that sort of cadence.
Especially in Arizona.
It was hysterical when making that game. We have to record 1,500, 1,600 people to fill that universe, and so we did all these auditions in New York, in LA, and I went through them because coming from the South, I know what a Southern accent sounds like, and I know when.
You also know what an Oklahoma accent sounds like, what a Texas accent.
Correct.
I mean, then the difference between the two.
And so we did a bunch of recording in New York. We found more decent Southern accents in LA, but then we ran out, and we had hundreds more NPCs that we needed to do. And I said, "We're going to Georgia.
Yeah.
We're going to Atlanta." And people from Mississippi and all, we got auditions from all around surrounding Atlanta, but I think that's one of the reasons that so many of the accents and characters in that are legit. And then for Saint Denis, which is sort of a spoof of New Orleans, there's no way you're getting a New Orleans accent in New York or LA. There's no way an actor can pull that off properly. We got a casting director down there that got us proper Creole.
Oh yeah.
And
did it pay him and stuff like cans of peaches. he gonna work for you if you give him a fresh can of peach. But it had to be good peaches. Well, then there we go.
I would introduce myself. "Hi, I'm Laszlo. I'm gonna be directing you today," and shit would come out of their mouth. I had not a clue what the fuck they were saying.
Dango, you like the man that Jesus raised from the dead. You won't know that's so funny. Nah, you won't got that biblical name.
And so I would be going through all this stuff, because for each character you have hundreds and hundreds of lines that trigger based on the player's behavior.
Watch where you going with that horse.
And
you look tired.
So some of the lines the Creole guys would read, and I didn't understand it at all, but I was like, that sounds awesome.
That's so funny. You being in the booth going, "And we got it." Now don't think the parrot gonna swim. Great job. Thank you so much, Remy. I'm about to go back onto my wind boat. Dude, that's fucking great. I can't tell you how much it meant you coming by, hanging out when you said you were in town. One of the coolest people I've met being in this business. You're just such a good dude. You've always stayed the same. And, yeah, I remember going to hang out at Rockstar Office with you and hold that fake gun that you got from Red Dead Redemption 1. And it was
I was thinking about when you and I first started hanging out, it was very romantic. Because do you remember the first few times?
Oh, yeah, we went out and got, like, oysters. Yeah. We
Yeah.
got, like, oysters.
I'm on the clock. What you want?
Like,
Some
looking at
wheels?
each other and, like,
We were sucking oysters.
Sucking
dude. I was
oysters.
like, am I being groomed?
and then we
That's how-
we would walk
That's how
out.
much I love video games. I'm like, I think I'm getting groomed by this guy. But these oysters are yummy.
And then, you know, we're...
I was still drinking, too, I think. Or did I just quit?
Yeah, I think you might have just...
I'm still smoking cigarettes, I know that.
yeah. But we'd pull out a vape.
Oh, yeah.
And that's back when you had to smuggle vapes in from other places.
From Colorado.
From Colorado.
Yeah, like 2013, 2014.
And you pull out a vape, and we were sharing it, walking down the street together.
After having oysters. Yeah, there's definitely people who thought we were a gay couple.
Right.
When we were hanging out, knocking back a dozen oysters, talking about stuff, and then sharing our vape, which now everyone vapes, but back then they're like, look at their gentleman cigarettes. We're like, ooh, this is hot. But that was like wax, dude. We were getting fucking wrecked.
It was fantastic.
Balling up the wax and putting it in there, and then you hear it crackle. And like, in 1997, the United States enacted the Deadbeat Dad Law, which meant